Hey Facebook family, this is Cheryl Scales. I'm in Orange Mound this afternoon. I'm in the same location as I was this morning at the three-way intersection of US Highway 78, sometimes known as Lamar, Barron, and Hamilton. You see a school bus coming right there. Came out here this afternoon because I wanted to do an afternoon assessment of the traffic flow. For those who were not able to join me this morning, I shared that I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, in a community called Orange Mound. Orange Mound was the first neighborhood in the U.S. where African Americans could own their own home. Known as the second oldest in the country, but it was the first for home ownership. Through the years, it's over almost 130 years old as a community. Through the years, and when I grew up here, my family grew up here in Orange Mound, 9 generations strong. Family on almost every street, like many of the great families of Orange Mound, the Eccles, the Williams, the Greens, all of those, and more. Shout out if you're from the Mounds and put your family up for me. What we knew was that we could count on greatness, expectation, and safety going to school. Currently, the community has certainly, like many urban communities, deteriorated during the 80s and particularly the 90s because of drugs. However, it has now come to an impact where the school board is considering closing Dunbar Elementary, merging them where the students have to go to Bethel Grove. If they go to Bethel Grove Elementary, the families who are in what they call a parent responsibility zone, a PRZ zone, are responsible. If the school is anywhere within 2 miles, they are responsible for getting their children to school. The issue is, in order for those parents to do that, those children, those parents, those who are without transportation, and those children would have to cross this highway. US Highway 78 basically is about 700 miles long, I believe, something like that. Rolls into Highway 22 when you're in Alabama. My cousin, the awesome Reverend Dr. J.Y. Trice, was instrumental in helping to get that freeway started down on Highway 22, which is why I know how dangerous it can be for our children to be walking across this kind of a freeway every day going to school. I am all for finding budget efficiencies, but I am not for the closing of Dunbar Elementary for the sake of budgetary considerations and having our children have to walk across this freeway. I do not know, and I don't know if we have done any feasibility studies to understand, for the 200 or so children that go to Dunbar, how many of those families have cars, how many actually walk to the school, and how it will really impact those who will have to cross this highway. What I would share is, one of the frustrating things about this is they want to close the school in spite of the school's recent and awesome growth. It has always been a very good elementary school. It produced the likes of some great ones who came out of Orange Mound. Call your name, call your name. Say hi. It has produced some great ones. But what happens is, they want to now, because the Dunbar Elementary School backs up to our stadium, which has been re-turfed. It is one of the best stadiums probably in the state now, and is getting more utilization from across the marketplace, across the county and the city. They now want to tear the school down and then make it into a parking lot. Now, how can we say a parking lot is more important than our children's education? Now, for those who've said, what's the budgetary consideration? Let me tell you about Dunbar today. Last month, I had an opportunity to step into the first community meeting. When I came in late Friday night to take my mom to the doctor, she won't like me telling that, but that's what I was here for. Love you, Mama. Literally, I just stopped in to see how the school was doing, only to learn that no, they had not removed the school from the closing list and were moving even faster to closing. So let me tell you about Dunbar and what I learned. I've learned that they have a 95% attendance rate. Average, the goal is 93. They're at 95. I understand that they have one of the highest parent involvement levels of most any school within the district. I've learned that they are strong in reading. They are strong in science. They need to pull up some in math, but they're not bad. I want to shout out to Mike Cornell, who was a school board member who not only represents the district, but during their working session last night spoke up and brought out the inconsistencies in the data that they're using. My purpose for being out here has nothing to do with the data per se. I want to let them handle that. What struck me last night when I looked at that impact study was that in the impact study, it shows that they're saying you have to be responsible for getting your child to school within the 2-mile zone. Well, when you do that, I don't know if you all can hear this noise like I'm hearing it, and it was much worse this morning. But how are our children, not only how are they going to be safe going to school, but if they encounter this kind of noise level every day, how are they going to study when they get there? 3 different people came up to me this morning. One just came over to me from my right and said, hey, are you okay? Told him what was here for. He said, no problem. You can stand out here. And I just wanted to record the traffic to show this is a Wednesday afternoon. I want to ask the school leadership, has anybody done the feasibility study? Not did you just look and say 2 miles, but did anybody get out here and actually do a feasibility study to find out what kind of situations our children are going to be facing every day? They don't need to close Dunbar. Not just because of what they say, the data. What they're saying is it costs $3.2 million for the operational cost of the school. But my question is, how much of our children's lives are worth when you're walking across this kind of freeway every day? Not only from a safety perspective, what I want you to note here is if you look, there's a small line down there. Oh, let me turn this way. You see that line right there? That's just a line. How are our children going to walk? Look up the freeway. Look up there on the sidewalk. There's not a sidewalk all the way down everywhere for them to walk on. This morning, I mean, if you're going to do something like this, has anybody done the feasibility to have walking paths put down here like we have bike trails so our children can walk? So, hey, even if we check out the walking part of it, what are we going to do about the noise? You know, something to be said for noise levels creating anxiety. Have they done the medical studies from the impact of noise on our little children's bodies? Not only the hearing, but the noise. Doctor friend of me asked me this morning, have they checked into that? I don't know. But they haven't checked into it. That's a feasibility study. Something like that needs to be done. You know, we prayed last night for a young man who had been killed since their last minute. And I pray, and my heart goes out to that family who lost their son or their daughter. But what I would say to you and say to us is we want to pray ahead of time. You know, they say faith without works is what? Say it. We got to work for this. We got to work ahead of time. Those little bodies not only could have hearing problems, but if they get health considerations, think it could be like Flint. In Flint, they made decisions that because of budget that they thought was quote unquote, what did they say? Budgetarily efficient and all of that. But it ended up that water damaged those children for a lifetime. How do we know that they're not making the same kind of decision on noise? Or how do we know if they need to, as somebody said this morning, somebody said and suggested, why don't they have a traffic light so they could go across? Because you don't see a traffic light that way, right? This is where a lot of the traffic is coming from. Can y'all hear this? All right, so if I turn around, the traffic light that goes across to the school is right up here. If you can see that traffic light right up here? But if you see where they gotta walk, there's not a sidewalk all the way down. So at some point, if it's a group of children, somebody's gonna get into the freeway. And what could that possibly do? That could possibly harm our children, right? We don't want that. We want the feasibility done. So to this morning, they suggested, here we go, coming the other way. Here's traffic coming the other way. We had 3 suggestions. One was for a traffic light. That's right. Faith without works is dead. I want you to know I'm alive. I'm alive because he died on the cross for me. He made it possible. And because he made it possible, too much is given, much is required. Out here today, I've seen the community, the parents at Dunbar. They were out last night at the board. They didn't get an opportunity to speak at the working session, but they're definitely going to get an opportunity to speak tomorrow night. It's not just about the passion and the greatness of Orange Mound. It is great. Greatness you can stand on shoulders. That's what Muhammad Ali said. He was the greatest of all time. And I know that many of us who grew up in Orange Mound feel strongly that we are growing out of greatness and that we expect to return greatness. Do you know those young children? They can talk about the history of the community. They can talk about where they come from. They've got a school president in elementary. They've got a student council in elementary. Look at all this traffic. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not just the freeway. Remember, this is a 3-way stop. This is traffic coming from Barron. All right, now wait a minute. Here in the afternoon, this is traffic going up Hamilton. So in the 2-mile zone, what's going to happen? You know, by the way, this is a do-it-yourself feasibility study. On behalf of our children, there needs to be a real feasibility study. So if it hasn't been done, how can we make a decision to close a school? And say within 2 miles, look at those little children walking way up there in front of me on Barron. Got the little red, pink jacket on. How can we make a decision to close the school? You just had 5 cars come down Barron. You got 3 cars down Hamilton. You got a truck that's turning. Wait a minute. Look at this. Look at the traffic that's turning right here. When you're going back to the mounds from over at Bethel Grove, you have 2 entry points. This is one. Barron is the next. And then you could go right down here to David and Highway 78. Can't necessarily call it just Lamar anymore. Got to make people understand this is a freeway. A federally trafficked freeway, 700 miles long, where trucks come up and down it all day. Our children deserve better than that. Our children need our voice. And I want to thank my friends and my alumni, Dunbar Strong, Golden Wildcat Strong, for standing in and being here, sharing information and insight. It's not just the budget. This kind of situation will cost way more than $3.2 million. Our children are worth more than that. They deserve more than that. Do I want them to spend money on some things that need to be repaired? Absolutely. But they should be on a schedule. I don't know about you, but if you own a house, right? And most houses, the roof lasts 25 to 30 years unless you have hail or wind. Well, That's why you pay into insurance. You pay a little bit in every month. So where's the upkeep thing? Look at here. Look at here at Barron. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coming down the Strong. 6 will be 7 cars out here coming through. How are our children going to navigate the entry back into the neighborhood? Where's the traffic light? Where's the bridge over the freeway over Lamar? And I still hold true to the noise. When the doctor called me after this morning session, it reminded me that noise will not only impact their hearing, but noise in a child's body impacts their serotonin levels, which impacts their ability to learn. The children who are in Dunbar today don't have those kind of serotonin issues where they're going to need a meditation room. Look at here. Here's Barron. Now look at this. Here's Barron, 1, 2, 3. Here's Lamar. Rolling. Okay? So I'm going to stay out here about 5 minutes because they got out at 3:15. If they're walking back in Harvest is over here. That's where Bethel is. Okay? So it doesn't matter. There's no way to go across to get to Bethel for these 2 miles for the family that have to get their children there than to walk if they don't have transportation. Now look at this. Look how fast that traffic rolled through. Look at this. Here is Hamilton, Barron, the highway, traffic turning. Now this is a do-it-yourself feasibility study. Before any kind of decision like this is made, for the sake of saying they're going to save $3.2 million, they need to make sure that it's done fully and correctly to make sure that these children are safe. And from a health perspective, to make sure we don't put them in jeopardy. Listen to how loud I'm talking. It was louder than this morning. If you look at my video from early this morning, it was louder than this. Here's traffic coming the other way. So no matter which way the children are going to come across, if they get a break on one side, call it headed towards downtown, they got to get across the street. And now, look at how the traffic is still full. All kinds of traffic. This dude trying to get out, no problem. But look at here, we got traffic trying to turn. Here we go. So this is a do-it-yourself feasibility study. If this kind of feasibility study has not been done where parents who have to walk their children can get there. I don't know how many children have cars in Orange Mound and go to Dunbar. But if they don't know, I would submit to you that, here we go, look at here. He can't get out. He's been sitting here for a minute. I would submit to you, if they haven't done the feasibility to know the impact, then we're not ready to make a decision to close the school. Absolutely, Miss Margaret. It makes me mad too. I couldn't sleep last night. You know, I did. I couldn't sleep. You know, I was restless all night because I said, you know, we walked out of the board meeting. Were they courteous and kind? Yes, they were. They did their thing. I said, but how do you get them to understand what kind of crossroads you're creating here? It looks like just a normal policy. All parents within 2 miles get their children to school. But how are they going to do that across this much traffic? In places where there are not freeways all the way down. There's no walk path. Then we need a light here so they can cross. Even if they put a crossing guard here, they need to put the cost in for the crossing guard. How are we going to do that? I submit to you that they're not ready to close Dunbar because the health and the safety, and I'll say the safety and the health issues that will be created by this decision for these children is well beyond the cost that they're saying of running the school. Separate from the part that I don't believe they have the $3.2 million cost, right? I believe it's far less than that. But even if I said your numbers were right, let's have one of our children get hit out here. I'm not seeking that in existence. Take it back. I'm not even going there. That's why I'm out here doing my own do-it-yourself feasibility study. I want the leadership to know that they missed this part. Somebody didn't give them the data. They need to reconsider. Yes, it is a shame. But I'm not worried about whether they're ashamed or not. Gotta tell you, I'm worried about whether they see this reality. This reality is that this is not safe. If even one of our children is affected by the traffic, that's a whole nother issue. But every child, let's say half of them, their mothers and their daddies can get them across the street. But out of 230 or so children, at least, look at here, this is Barron again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, can y'all hear that? That's almost the first time we've had a little bit of a break. So even if the traffic breaks, right? You got the noise. I want to thank Doc for calling me today to remind me that the noise effect on a child's body not only affects their hearing, but impacts serotonin levels, which can have long-term effects. So I've invited any school board member who sees this video, which I'm going to send it to them tonight, come out here with me in the morning. In the morning, instead of standing right here at the three-way intersection of Highway 78, Barron, and Hamilton, in the morning, I'm going to go straight down this way, and I'm going to stand at Lamar and David, because those are the two primary ways that children in the neighborhood will come across to go across this highway to get to Bethel Grove. We cannot have that kind of a short-term decision for just the budget. I believe the numbers are lower than they say. The numbers are lower than they say. We can work with it, we can work through it. But one thing we cannot do is put our children in jeopardy. Dunbar, will close with this. I have not only went to Dunbar, but people from around the world, people like Charles Allen, can name every teacher he had. You know what? Today, not only can the children name the teachers, but the children can name every student. That school does parental involvement, parental support. They put a monthly program on over there every day in order to help the parents. One month they did something with Regions to help parents learn how to improve their credit. Another month, here we go, even though there's nothing coming this way, all I'm gonna do is swing around. They did something on helping people do skill sets with community college so they can improve their skills and get better jobs. They have high engagement because they're doing special things. If cost is a reason, we want to make sure that we look at all the full cost. I don't believe that in any of the public impact study information I have seen that cost to get across this freeway has been factored in. There's no walkway. There's no traffic light up here. And as somebody said, to affect the noise, maybe we need to do is build a bridge over the freeway. Haven't seen any of that. But before you make a decision to close Dunbar, I believe we need to do all of that. I want to thank you all, my friends, for listening in. I want to now say that we need you tomorrow afternoon at 6 p.m. if you are in the city to come out to Dunbar. They had a phenomenal turnout in December for people who showed up, both parents, partners, and community. They got some great partner relationships. Team Reed, New Ballet, the Grizzlies invested $40,000 last year in helping them develop a garden. I mean, great partners, great things going on there. This can be a turnaround success. Let's not put our children in jeopardy. I want to thank you for listening to what I'm saying. We want to keep Dunbar open. And if we want it open, and if they say it's got to close, we want to make sure they close with full cost. And when they close it, they have to put the light in, or they have to put the bike trail in, or they've built the overhead. Because see, when you do the light and the trail, yes, you address some of the safety, but you haven't addressed what Doc said, which is where the Flint thing comes in. It's the long-term effect of sound and noise on the bodies. Have we looked at those studies? Maybe we need to look at those studies. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, Karen, the crossing guard could get hit trying to save somebody. 3 of the people who own businesses down here earlier this morning when we were taping, one came up and talked during the taping, and 2 of them came up afterwards, and they just said, hey, this street is dangerous even when we try to cross it. Miss Jean, what you say, the children are going to be nervous when they get to school because of the traffic? I'm getting nervous. Yeah, absolutely, Miss Jean. You know, that was what the doctor who called me this morning was telling me. She said there are studies out there that show the impact of noise. It creates a kind of a mini PTSD in children where their serotonin levels go up. And then when they get to school, these children go to school ready, excited to learn. If they got to run across this traffic every day and be scared, and you know, I saw 5 of them going today. How are they going to be ready to learn? Is the school going to factor in a meditation room? And then why would they do that to our children where they got to have a meditation room? Or if they don't fund a meditation room, then our children who come across this every day are then going to be given some kind of label that they don't deserve because their nervous system is upset. We can do better than this. I don't believe that the superintendent and the school board, when they get this do-it-yourself feasibility study, can do anything but make sure that they have all the proper information to make a decision. And that means you got to have all the safety issues in place for sure at a minimum, and the health issues around sound. What is the overcoming factor for that? Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Tomorrow evening at Dunbar, 6 p.m. Please come out if you're in the city. That is the actual community meeting. We will be allowed to speak. I understand Superintendent Hobson will be there, along with several of the school board members, if not all of them. Again, I want to thank Mike Cornell, who is the school board member for this area, who not only just spoke up, but spoke up with passion because he knows the community, he knows the schools. No, the superintendent didn't tout work in the school system. He didn't. And even so, I think that we need to, have a whole different take on this situation. And we need them to go back and look and make sure they've got the right feasibility studies in place to make this kind of a massive decision. I don't just mean because they want to make the school a parking lot. Of course I object to that, but I really object to it because of the impact it will have on the children. I know that there are others of you on this call who have objected, others who are going to join us tomorrow. I want to thank you, and I want to make sure, look at this. This is a turning point. Look at all this traffic coming this way. Now we got 1, 2, 3, 4 cars standing in line. I've only been out here 30 minutes. I'm going to sign off. I think they need to do a more official feasibility study. And I'd like to have your voice and support to come on out tomorrow. And when I post my letter in the page, if you feel so, send me notes. They look at the letters. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Signing off.